Okay, so this first scramble is actually quite ridiculous. We of course have this huge block on white, and then there's also this line on the same color, and the edge, which isn't on that line already, is here. So I can easily connect them with an R prime U white. And before I did that, I also looked at where the DFBD edges were, and one of them is already solved, and the other one is in this spot. And so if I do R prime U white R prime to solve the line, the other DFDB edge will be in the same spot but flip the other way. That would look like this. And then of course I'd solve the block with the U2. For this case, on DFDB, I think the fastest way to solve it is probably R white M prime at the same time, U R U prime, and then just R white 2. And now we have an easy case again for the back right pair. It's just R and then a regular pair. And what I see here now is that I can actually cancel into the EO alg, because when I insert this pair, the edge, of course, will move from here to here. And this is the misoriented edge, and the other one that's misoriented is this one. And because the alg for this EO case, where the misoriented edge is here and here, the alg is just a sledgehammer. So when I insert a pair and I'm at this point, I can cancel the sledgehammer with an F, like this. And now my EO is solved. And of course I solve LXS, and then CB. Okay, so on this scramble we have this bigger green-orange block. So if you still do a root style first block, there's a lot of options, because we can either do this block, or this one, or this one. I think the one I'm going for here is this one, because with an R white prime and then like this, we can solve this line. And while we do that, the other two pieces for the rest of the block will end up in pretty nice spots, so that we can pair them right away. And now this is a really nice DFDB case that we got, because we can just solve the first edge with the U2, and the one here is misoriented, and so you can cancel into the other case with an R white 2, U prime R white. And now to solve the back right pair, it's just R prime to R, and then insert. This EO case is 1 1, which is U2 white F prime U prime white F. And LXS is like this, and CBLL is like this. Here on the next scramble, there's also a lot of blocks, and I think the best one is this line here. But other options are also this block, or I think there's this one here too. But the best solution I found was on this line, because we can create the line with the edges on top in like 4 moves. Because we can first connect this center to this edge with an E move, and then with R we can solve the other edge with R U white R prime, and we can solve the line afterwards. Now for the DFDB case, this is a case where I would set up to this case, where both of the edges are connected to their center, but in the wrong spot, because then we can solve them both like this, and it's just this motion to solve both of them is really quick. Now this is probably one of the easiest back right pairs, and what I would do here is also, we can see already now that all of the edges are oriented. So solve them, and then we can go straight into LXS. And of course now we have also very easy CB. This is from this angle, soon, U, anti-soon. So on this Scramble we have a lot of options again. There are like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 blocks to choose from. And I found the best solution I found on not this block. I found the best solution on this blue-white block, because I can create this pair with R white U R white prime. And what that also does to the other pair, which we'll need to solve for this block, it will put this corner in this spot with the white face on the top. So I can just after I insert this pair here, I can just solve it with R prime U prime F2. And of course now I'm in this grip, I guess, and I see that my DFDB edges are already paired in relation to each other, and I just need to solve the center. And I'll do this with U M prime, and I can solve it with this. And of course in this grip it would usually be better if I just did in R white, because this is already a better grip than this. But I did the M2 because that will leave the edge for the back right pair in the top layer, which is way better. And then I can pair them like this. And now in this case, because we have a misoriented pair in the U layer, what I would do, because I know the subset is EOPair Misoriented U. The algorithm specifically for this case is like this. But what I would probably do if I didn't know this subset is, before even making the pair, I would solve it like this, which might even be better than the EOPair solution, but I'm just used to that way of solving at this point. Now, if we go with this solution, we have 2 misoriented edges, and the solution is just a hedge, and now we have this LXS case, and we have this very easy CB. Okay, so now in this Scramble we have 2 blocks that we can work with. We can either work with this one or this one. Both of them don't have really nice solutions, but I think the one on the white red one is probably the best one, because with an F prime move we can put this pair in this spot, so we can solve it like this, and then F. But I also had to look, of course, what that would do for the other pair, and it's not amazing, but it works out, so that I have to solve the other pair like this. And then of course U2 R white B prime. Now this DFDB case is very easy again, because one of the edges is already connected to the center. So we do U. So when we do an R white 2, the whole line just gets solved, and then we insert it. Now this back pair is quite bad. If you just solve the pair directly with the pair algs, you would probably do something like this. And then for the EO, this is a hedge again, and we have this LXS case. And now the CB case, which we have, is this one. Okay, so this next scramble is actually quite nice, because we can build a block using this pair here. And what I would do in this situation, especially if the edge belonging in that block is already so close to being solved, I would solve the line with the center like this, and then insert this block into the other one. And what that actually does, because we do an S move, is that it also solves this pair here, which is even better. So I guess afterwards we can also solve this pair here with U F prime. And now we have a DFDB case where also one edge is solved to its center, but it's in the wrong spot. So what I would do, because what I want to do is I want to solve the other one, which is back here like this in the end. But of course, I first need to solve this one in the correct spot with YR U2 YR prime. And now I can solve this one. For the back right pair, you can solve it like this in this case. Or something which you might want to do, but I don't think it's worth it in this situation, is you can, because we have two blocks already like this, and we can put one in the U layer like this, and then we can connect this block like that. And I guess in this case it was quite bad, but that will guarantee you to have a solved DR edge. But this solution was probably a bit too long for that to be worth it. So at this point I would just do the regular solution with U prime, R prime U, and then R2 U prime R2. And now we have this EO case again, which goes like this, and this LXS case, which is quite intuitive. And now I have this CB, which goes like this. Okay, so on this scramble I found a solution to solve the red-yellow block. So what I saw is I can solve the block that belongs right here with a green, yellow, red corner like this with the edge. And I noticed that if I just solve this one normally, it just solves the corner too. So I realized that the edge of the whole line is also here, so I can do an F prime and solve the line too. And then when I solve the rest, the whole block is solved. For this DFDB case, because we have an edge here and an edge here, the best would probably be to solve the edges relative to each other, like this, and then solve the center too with U, M, U prime, and now RY2. Now I'd solve the back right pair. Here the best way is probably to do just the pair solution, which goes like this, and then EO, which goes like this. Now we have this LXS case, which is not really intuitive. It goes like this. And for CB you have this. Okay, so on this scramble we can do a similar thing like before, because we already have two blocks on the green-yellow roux style block. And I of course now want to solve this corner and this edge, and they are both in the U layer. And there are different ways to solve them. One would be to first solve the corner like this with the U2 and then insert it, and afterwards the edge. But what I found is if we first solve the edge like this and then solve the corner, what happens is that the DFDB edges are in a better spot. That happens because on the scramble, the first DFDB edge is here and the other one is here. And so if we solve this edge to the line, of course this one gets pushed up like this. And the other moves don't change it. So I will just solve the block now like this. And for the FDB, we now have what seems like quite a bad case, but it's actually quite fast to solve, because we can solve the first edge like this, and then R white M prime, U prime R white. Now we have this pair with the edge here and here, and I just solve it like this. Now for EO, we have like the arrow case. With the arrow case, you can always choose in which direction to do the U move here. So what I'd usually do is do it in a way that it solves the DR edge, which we can do here. That's of course not always possible, but that's not always worth it, because in this case we get quite a bad pair for the last slot. And if we do it in the other direction, we get a way better LXS case. So you really have to see if it actually improves anything if you solve the DR edge. And then we do the LXS case. And then CB. Okay, so in this scramble we have a lot of blocks again. But actually none of them is amazing. But the best solution I found is on the orange-yellow block, where we can solve the smaller line on orange with this center and this edge like this, with F prime, R white. And of course what I looked for is also that this isn't... what I looked for is also that it doesn't give you that bad of a pair for the other slot, which it doesn't. It gives something like this, which is quite an okay pair. We would solve it like this. And then we have a very simple DFDB. This is like one of those commutator cases you can get in Ru as well, but of course we can do R white moves here. And now we have, for the back right pair, there are like two ways of solving this pair, and they of course give different EO cases. We can solve it with F, R prime, F prime, which, since that's the start of a hedge, it would orient these two edges, and it of course brings down this one here. So we'd have this one misoriented and this one more oriented in the end, which is quite an okay case. That's like F sexy F prime. And then we could also just solve it like this, which would be the more standard way, which gives like the arrow but with the edge on the right here, which is worse. So I'd actually do this one here if I saw that. That isn't guaranteed that I would see that. So I would do this, and then U prime or U. Here you can decide as well, because it's symmetry, it doesn't matter. And now F sexy F prime for the EO. And now I guess in this case we can see if the other case would have been better. Not really. Those are both quite mid LXS cases. So I stay with the other angle. And this case goes like this. And now we have this CB. Okay, so on this scramble we of course have this huge block on green. So I'd look if I can solve this pair efficiently. And in cases like this, you really have to look at the DFDB edges and what happens with them during the solution. So what I would do, I would solve the pair, which is in the U layer, with a U prime, M2 U R, and then just insert it. And then I looked for what the edges are doing during that solution, and of course we're doing a U prime, M2, and then a U again. And then at the end we'll do a B prime. So that's the position the edges will end up, and of course the centers will be an M2 way. So I do the solution, and then now because the centers are an M2 away, we can solve this edge to this center like this. And then we can solve the second edge like this. Now for the back right pair, the solution here will be this. And now we have the front arrow case again. Now we have this LXS, which goes like this. And this CV. Okay, so now in this scramble we have this block on the red, and I found that it's quite easy to solve this pair here, because the edge is here and the corner is here, and we can just pair them with U prime R. And of course I also want to solve this corner here, which after we do the solution for this pair back here, this corner, which belongs in that spot, will be an R further up. So if after we've solved this pair, we'll do another R, so it'll reach this spot, and then we can do D, R prime, D prime. And what I saw too was that during the solution for the back pair, this DFDB edge between these two centers will be solved, because when you pair the pieces up, it will go in this spot, and then we'll do a U2 and B to solve the pair, and that will also solve this edge into this spot. And of course the other edge for the FDB is back there, and it'll be down here after we've solved the pair. So now we do RY2. Oh, I forgot to solve the other thing. So now we'll do an RY2 and solve the other edge like this. And now we have the pair like this. In this case, I would actually do the EOPair alg. The solution would just be to solve the pair and then insert it like this. And now again, we have this arrow case on the right for EO. And again, we can choose between two edges. And then I think in this case, it is way better to choose the DR edge and solve it like this, because it will give quite a good LXS case. And now we have this CV again. Okay, so in this scramble, I haven't found an amazing solution, but I did find a solution on the red-white block. Because firstly, we can solve the other block like this, so we can do a 2x2 block, which is not that good because we still have to flip it like this in the end, so we can connect them. But what I did find is that if we, after the U white prime, no, if we before the U white prime do an R move, we can actually make the case for the other pair way better during the flip, because now the other edge is here and the other one is in the U layer. Otherwise it would have been down here in like another orientation. So this is actually a bit better. Now I would solve this pair, but I try not to mess up the DFDB edge, which is already quite good here. If I now do the insert with an F move, it won't be amazing for DFDB, to say the least. So I do the U2 move first, So at least one of the DFDB edges is solved. And then I can do the F move. And now I only have to solve the last one, which I'll do like this. For the back right pair, this is this case, which is very easy. And EO, we have a hedge again. And here again, we can cancel into the LXS alk. And now we get this CB, which goes like this. Okay, so I just had a laugh when I saw the scramble, because one block is almost solved already. We only have to solve the center and the edge in the middle. And there's another block which we could solve easily, which is the orange one, because also here we only have to solve one pair and then the center. And there's we can also solve the blue block with yellow with this pair, and then there's an okay solution with this pair too. But I think the one I'm going for will be the one with the green block, just because it's way easier to predict DFDB on this one. To solve this center and edge, of course, we can pair them with the U2 like this, and then put them in the U layer and insert them. But I'll of course see what the DFDB edges are doing during that solution. So after the R white move, this one will move to the top and we'll do a U move and then an S move. So the white face will be here, then it'll go here, and because of the S move, it will go here. And the orange one will go, the white face will go back here, because we do an R move and then a U prime like this. And now there are like two ways to do this DFDB solution. We can either just solve the red one directly like this, which leaves us with a slightly worse case for the orange one, or we can solve one of the two edges, it doesn't matter, with slice moves, which gives us the better case for the other one, which I think is slightly faster, but the difference is pretty negligible. But I do this solution. And then we have this pair. Here I'll pair the pair like this. And then I do EOPair like this. And now we have this LXS case, which goes like this. And this CB. Okay, so on this scramble, the block I'm probably going to do is the red one, even though there's a pair in the wrong slot, but a pair in the wrong slot is still a pair. And if we solve this one, it will not get destroyed. And I'd solve the other pair by doing an F2 and then a U2 to solve the pair, and then insert it. And then we can solve the other one like this. For the FDB, there are like two ways again to solve this. Either we do U prime and then put the other ones in the U layer too, and then we can create a line with this. Or what we can do too is, okay, no, the other way was trash, actually. I would solve it like this. And again, we have a case with a lot of misoriented edges. So I'd solve the pair and do the EOPair alk. And now we have this pair, which I'd solve like this for LXS. And the CB is this. Okay, so this scramble has a lot of blocks again. What I'd probably do is the green block. What we'll have to do first is solve the center, so that we have a real 2x2 block. If we just do that normally, which would be like this, the pair would be in a quite bad spot. So what we can do is we do an F move first, and then afterwards the pair will be in a way better spot. So I'll solve this, and then the DFDB case is very easy again, because it's just a 3 swap again. Now for this pair, the best solution is probably this. And then EO is a sledge. And here you can cancel into the R2 of the LXS alg. And the CB is this. So on this scramble, there are quite a few blocks, but I'd probably solve the blue one first, which I do with this corner and this edge, like this. And this, of course, doesn't leave the best pair for the other slot, but it's not that bad either, because we have a lot of freedom with the R-wide layer. So I'd solve it like this. And now in this spot, sometimes I might not notice that, but if I predicted that in inspection, I'd definitely do a U move here, so that the DFDB edges end up in a better spot before inserting the last pair in the block. And now for this DFDB case, I'd connect the misoriented edge to the center, then solve the other one, and now I can solve both of them like this. Now for the back right pair, I do something like this. And we have the front arrow again. Now the LXS solution is this. And CB is this. Okay, so in this scramble, I'd do the red-white block, because I already have this line, and I can create another line with the R prime. And of course, now I have to do an R white prime, but I realized if I do the R white prime, it also solves the corner of the line. And then I'd also want to solve the edge of the other line, which isn't going to be that amazing. Actually, it is. Yeah, okay, so what would be the better solution that I just thought of is create the line like this, and then just insert the edge like this. And now we can solve the whole block on the left. And we have this DFDB, which is quite good. I would solve this edge to the center like this. And now I can join the edge here too. And of course now U prime R white too. And now I can solve the back right pair like this. And here again I realize I can cancel into the EO alg, because when I do the R we have this case, which is a sledge, and I can cancel into it like this. Now I have this LXS case and this CB case. Okay, so in this scramble, I do the red-yellow block. I can solve a line which corresponds to this block like this, with those two pieces, and then the U prime and an E prime like this, and then solve the other pair like this. Now for the FDB, we can easily solve this edge, and the other edge is back here, so we can do a U2 and solve this one too. The back right pair is very simple again, like this. And now we have the 6 misoriented EO case, which is just a hedge, U, and now the arrow again. And here again, I would solve the DR edge, because it will give a slightly better case. So we can solve this pair now. And now we have CB. Okay, so in this scramble, I solved the green-yellow block first. What I would want to do is, of course, an M2 in the start to create this line, but this will just put this edge back here, which won't be good for the second pair. So I'll do a U prime move first, and then an M2, because now I can solve this block, and this edge will be in this spot, which is very good for the corner, which is back here, because we can solve the pair like this. Now we have this DFDB case, which is okay-ish. I do an RY prime, and then solve them separately, like this. And this just happens to solve the back right pair too, so I'll solve it like this. And now we have a two flip. And here again, we can choose two orientations, and because the alg for the two flip case will move this corner to this spot, I'll know that I'll have a block here, and I have two blocks here as well for the LXS case, so this will be a better case. So I'll just solve the LXS, and now I'll solve CB. Okay, in this scramble, I'll solve the orange-yellow block first. We have these pieces for one pair are back here, so what I would want to do is solve them like this, and then insert them. But I don't want the corner for the other pair to end up here, because that will be quite inefficient to solve. Because what I can do instead is put the corner here. Actually, no. What I can do instead is put the corner here, and then after I solve the pair, it will be in this spot, which I can then pair up with the edge in 3 moves like this. Now we can solve DFDB, and in cases like these, we can also look for what the pair pieces are doing for the back right pair, because we can see them real well here. We can solve this DFDB either like this or like this. And of course, this one is way better, because when we then align the edges with the center, the pair also gets solved. So I'd insert this, and now we have the 6 misoriented case, which is again hedge, U, and then again the right arrow case, which we can solve the DR edge easily here. And we'll have a quite nice last slot. And now we have CB. Okay, so this scramble has a lot of blocks too, but none of them are amazing. But we can do quite a nice solution with the red-yellow one. So we can, of course, first solve the pair like this, and then insert it. And afterwards we have to solve this edge here, which we can do like this. We do a U wide, and then we create this line with R wide prime, U prime, R wide. And then we just connect these lines again. Now for this DFDB, of course, I'd first want to solve this one like this, but the other edge will end up like this, flipped in its spot, which isn't that good. So what's better is to first solve the flipped edge like this, and then afterwards we can solve the other one still. Now we have this case for the back right pair, which you should solve like this. And now for EO, this is just RU, R prime, and then we have the arrow case. And now the LXS case goes like this. And the CB goes like this.